Oh. Yada yada. Boomer attempts to stream. Effectively. Shuffling Windows about. Windows. This is DOS, not Windows. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, are you a millionaire yet? Okay. Depends on the currency, I suppose. I bet there is a currency where everybody is a millionaire. So the idea is basically just for me to do some laps at Detroit. I uploaded a video earlier today beating my 25-year-old record. And a bit of DOS gaming is always fun. So let's see what we are doing. Turning the music off is what we're doing. Ah yes, the fun of Grand Prix Circuit. So I thought, since I beat my time at Monza, let's make it a bit harder and try to do that at Detroit, because the US Grand Prix this weekend and Detroit, well, the accuracy of the tracks in this game is about terrible anyway, so it doesn't really matter what track you choose. This is Miami. The secret to this game is of course the Ferrari, which is almost at all tracks it's the quickest. It's the slowest in a straight line, but it has magic grip. So that's the one we'll use. And I did a couple of laps and I already found out that I'm slow here. So my laps are a bit harder to match. Let me know what the sound balance is alright with voice and game. And since we're not sort of hardcore simming, I will still make a lot of mistakes while looking at chat, but I can at least attempt to look at chat and answer the questions and stuff. Some people are popping in and watching, that's very nice. I haven't streamed in, I don't know how long, huge amount of time. Often I tend to prefer just making a video, but every now and then I think streaming works best if you're sort of interacting a little bit. And nowadays with VR, there's not a lot of interaction possible. Just breaking my nose with the Pimax bouncing on my nose. Yeah, downtown Detroit is extremely green this time of year. Right, so let's have a brief look. So let's recap the chat. I was a millionaire, yes, depending on the currency. And Salmiaki asks if I can do a lecture on vehicle dynamics. I don't even think I'm good enough to go in depth a lot, you know. I do have a few videos that I think are possibly reasonably interesting about how tire models, why it's difficult to make good tires, how to look at tire data, some bit about dampers and car setup. Every now and then I do a little bit, but it can also be a bit tricky to take this YouTube stuff like really serious. I can just do a stream or randomly do some laps and make a video of that. Putting in effort in a video is not always, it doesn't always, you know, work with time. And to be honest, sometimes I wonder the views are not that high. And then you have a low effort video, you get good views and you put actual effort in it. And the thing is, with views, you get spoiled. If a video does like 10 or 20,000, you think, oh, that's reasonable. And then when it does 2,000, you think, it's nothing. When of course, that's still quite a big number. And yeah, I'm just checking clipping. Well, my mic seems all right. But it's a lot of work. So for me, this YouTube thing is still not monetized. I recently saw that another JM on cars had a video where YouTube detected a swear word that wasn't even said. It was just some British slang accent that made YouTube think it was a swear word, and then his results tanked. But I don't want to monetize my channel because I hate ads and I use adblock myself. So I sometimes wonder if I would enable monetization and ads, that maybe some of the videos, I mean a lot of my videos are just random and not for a big audience at all, but a couple I think would deserve maybe a little bit more reach, but I don't want to monetize. So Rod needs to go to optician to get his eyes checked. Can't tell if it's real or sim. And the red dot on top, yeah, that's sort of where the steering wheel is, but the steering in this game is... Oh, wrong buttons! It's quite a challenge to play this game properly. This is of course 1 year earlier than Indianapolis 500, where, in case you missed that, probably one of my last streams, or I actually tried to do a 500-mile race with my modern sort of wheel and pedals, which you can sort of get working. For that stuff you have to watch GP Labs, of course, he's the master of taking old games too seriously. But this is 1 year earlier, and this is not 3D, this is sort of a weird 2D thing that games did back in the day. Outrun had it, lots of Sega games had sort of a sprite-based, semi-3D type of look. And this wasn't at all 3D, but oh, bad. Indianapolis, you really needed a 286 16 megahertz at least to get it somewhat working, and maybe preferably a 386. But we had a 4.7 megahertz system back in the late 80s, and this would work-ish. Not at the frame rate you're seeing now, which is very low, but it ran way worse on my Hercules. Well, I say my, of course, the computer we had at home was strictly for my father to use for work. And I just broke it by removing command.com and playing games on it. But 4.7 megahertz would never run Indianapolis 500. So this is despite only a 1 year difference with Indy 500, this is quite a big generation behind. But this game is... We have to somehow beat a 102.6. Let me see if I can sort of throw that on the screen. Time to beat. I think I can do that. Yes, look at my skills here, amazing. It is true that these old game sounds, like, yeah, they are terrible, this PC speaker sound, but the minute you hear it, the instant you hear it, you're back in the 80s, if you're old enough to have been there in the first place. So Accolade, they made some really cool games. Test Drive 1, which was actually not that great. It didn't run well with keyboard. You couldn't press throttle and steering at the same time in 87. This in 88. Test Drive 2, which is a very nice game. But like I said, with Indy 500 going 3D just 1 year later, Accolade really did a horrible job, in my opinion, when they went to actual 3D with Test Drive 3, which is so badly programmed that the frame rate is the clock depends on your CPU speed. So if there's nothing going on, you get like the time going twice as fast, and then there are some mountains and some cars, and then the time goes half as fast. It's horrific and unplayable. And their worst game, I should probably do like a meme stream of it at some point, is Grand Prix Unlimited, also from Accolade, 1992 by then. Horrific performance that is sort of way too fast or way too slow, unplayable, undrivable. Not great. And that H pattern shifter aircon, well, we had one at some point, and then we reckon it wasn't good enough, so we didn't go ahead with it. And there hasn't been any development since, so don't throw anything you have out of the window just yet. It's a bad idea. So in this game you can do a championship, single race or practice mode, and this difficulty level is actually important because from the middle level you have to manual shift, but the harder you make it, the easier it is to blow up your engine. So for prime hot lapping, which you are doing tonight, you want to be manual shifting but having a bit of leeway, because we are taking the Ferrari, like I said before, and Detroit, Miami. It's Miami. Because it appears to be the slowest car in the game, but it's actually the quickest car on almost all tracks. The D key positions the shifter. The I key, yeah, info, and there's a map with a minus. Hey, I know this game. So Detroit, you should definitely look for Detroit videos on YouTube. There's one with, I think it is 85 or something. A big shunt even. Lap of the Gods, what is it called? Some onboard videos that they did in the late 70s, early 80s. Fun to see. And I forgot who it is, but new tires, overcooks it, the turbos come in, and he actually has an accident while trying to show off with a big camera stuck to his car. I know most streamers have like a music playlist, but if you have PC speaker sound in your game, you definitely do not need any music playlists here. Time to beat, not this. We need to find a lot of time. I don't think I'll do it. Video I uploaded at Monza is of course really simple because there's only 2 turns that are not flat out, so it's easier to get close to your old time. And here, I doubt it's going to be easy to get to that time. Because the controls are a bit sensitive, weird, sluggish and sensitive at the same time. Just not when you want them. When you want them to be sluggish, they're not. And when you want them to be sensitive, they're sluggish. It's telepathic 80s gaming. Oh, the 102 just passed. This wasn't a great lap. This won't be a great lap either. This is AMS free, Sam. This is sneak peek. I'm back with AMS3 here. You can see it's very near release candidate. The change of direction is super sluggish, but then when you tap the key, sometimes you get a bigger nudge than you want. But overall, the lines you have to take have to be smooth, and sort of the ideal lines do seem to work best. And if you hear the tire screeching sounds, you are scrubbing up. Oh, speed, that's a near blow up. So it's tapping the keys, hoping that you don't scrub the speed. Wow, 4 seconds. The rumble strips don't, no. There's either this grip or the grass, and you see you hear that, and you see that green bar above the steering wheel, which was, of course, a real feature on all Formula 1 cars in the 80s. Very advanced bar that all displays had mandatory by the FIA, showing how much grass you've picked up and how much damage, so you knew when to pit. That's the realistic part of this game. So the trick is, I find, to not scrub the speed. When you steer a bit too much, that speed drops and then takes a little bit to get going again. It seems like my A key doesn't always register, so we might have a blown engine at some point. So my excuse is there already. So every time I tap a bit too much and you hear a little ref drop, it's basically bad. Oh, or that's bad too. The game does have joystick support, but only digital joysticks, so just as binary inputs as you have with the keyboard. And if you screw up your line, it does cost you a lot of time, and the brakes are just phenomenal. And the Ferrari being the quickest car, but you can also easily over-rev it and damage the engine. Well, it doesn't seem to have a damaged state, it's either working or blown. And the higher difficulty you choose, the quicker it blows. I'm still 3.5 seconds off. So in a way, slowing down once and then having a continuous acceleration out of the turns, it is sim-like in a way. But of course you have to look with very old eyes, or like very nostalgic eyes. So a problem here is I'm in the red line in 4th gear, which we are very slow still. If we do manage to get somewhat near the competitive times, that might be a point where the engine doesn't like it anymore, but you also don't want to shift to 5th because you lose some torque and speed probably. Oh, so much speed lost, pretty bad. Like here. Ooh. That red line is scary. At the highest difficulty, I think we would have blown it already. That's pretty good. Almost, I think, no speed lost there, so that's sort of the strat. And we are only 2 seconds off now. Only 2. Easy game. Yeah, good tapping. No apex. Terrible. It is, in my opinion, just not too frustrating. It's nearly too frustrating, but also a challenge. See, that was not quite as good as the last lap. We scrubbed a little bit of speed, but still too slow. I haven't tried the Mercedes yet. It almost seems comically fast, but the grip of modern, well, last year's Formula 1 and still modern Formula 1 cars is so insane that perhaps it's not even all that overdone. I'm sort of working on, just for fun, a bit of a 2022-ish car for AMS, which even started porpoising in a completely different and unrelated to real-life porpoising way. I still struggle to get to grips with iRacing, that some cars are really different. They changed the GT3s quite a bit. There's a lot more grip, it seems, but then you can still easily die if you somehow overcook it. They seem to be sort of going in a more accessible to drive way. I think the Mercedes Formula 1 car is also quite easy, but still at the limit it still seems a bit weird. Oh, merde. There was, it was now a year or maybe 1.5, 2 years ago, on the iRacing forum, somebody who did pretty good analysis, as far as I could tell, with the Formula 3 car in iRacing, where he seemed to have found that the optimum slip angle of the rear tires was about half that of the front tires, which is a big difference, and that would give you a very understeery safe car until it no longer does that and it kills you. And then I drove the LMP car, the LMP2 car in iRacing when that came out last year. I think it was last year. And it felt exactly the opposite, like the rear was almost sprint car, dirt track-ish, but also somewhat controllable. I don't really see the consistency in the cars. And I've heard mixed reports about the recent GT3 update as well. Thing is, with iRacing they do so many things right, but since they've been trying this since 2008, and if you actually continue it back to 1989 with bringing it like, whoa, that's a nice segue back to DOS. I discovered I have never been able to enjoy a car at the limit in anything that Dave Kammer made, the physics genius. I do consider him to be a physics genius and a very important person in the history of sim racing. But I don't like how it felt in Grand Prix Legends. You cannot really control the slide, which is understandable in Indianapolis 500. And I never really enjoyed iRacing And every year there is this new car and people say, oh Niels, now it's fixed, you should try it. But I think it's the problems that I have with it are a bit too fundamental. YouTube is really weird. I have no idea where I set the thumbnail for my stream. Oh, looking at chat. Even in a DOS game, it's not great. Oh, I think that's really close to a blow up. What to do though? Assuming we get consistent and quick. The brakes are astonishing. Oh, the grip isn't always. So aircon, of course, these are just my opinions, and I know that a lot of people probably really enjoy iRacing, and it is good in a way because you have to stay below the limit, and that's a safe thing and a wise thing to do in real life. And sometimes maybe the cars I would make are too slidey or too easy to slide. I've made a video about how hard should sim racing be. If you haven't seen that, I think it's worth searching my channel for that. There are so many question marks, how it should feel, how difficult is that it's not possible to be totally objective about it, I think. It's always a subjective part. And of course, since I did the physics for Automobilista first, and that's still sort of my sandbox, my playground to do a bit of tweaking. I sort of tweak the cars until they are what I subjectively think might be alright with the limitations of myself and the limitations of the physics engine. But that doesn't mean it is. And perhaps more people would prefer iRacing, for example, and it's more down to my preferences that I don't like it as much. Digital only, Jake. So yeah, you can bind your joystick, but nothing analog here. And even the digital inputs are very inconsistent. Sometimes you give it a nudge and you just cannot go straight. How far off are we? So, I did a 104. I think I did a 0. So we are almost on the board, but that 102.6 is still eluding us. And the times I did here in 97 is not the first time I played the game. I think we got it in 1989 maybe. But I didn't have the amazing foresight to include the year. And when I replayed it in 97, when I was 17, 18... I thought, well, this is fun, I might do this in the future, so let's put the year there. Which is cool, so now I can see how old my record is. Gabriella says that Sims will feel differently if we feel G-forces. Well, yeah, maybe not. I don't. You know, the more I am involved with sim racing, from the software and the hardware, the more doubts I have with what is the feedback you need and what do you want and what is important, what isn't important. So GP Labs with the interesting question that my old times are still there. That's a story that is probably not interesting, but I'm gonna share it anyway. Way back in '97, the rich kid at school got a CD writer, a CD burner, giving you the ability to store 650 megabytes on a shiny disk. Oh, hey, you can see you can actually spin. That was I meant to demonstrate that. In fact, let me pause to see if I can find it. Okay. Let me see, where's me? So my rich friend with a CD writer, I burned the CD. I brought all my floppies, which in the presence of a CD writer in 1997, the floppy would be fairly stiff, I suppose, but I brought that, and also a tape drive, which I used for backup with more games. And I burned the CD, which took a long time because it was a single speed CD writer. And this is it. The Heusware CD. And I've tried it recently. Ooh, it's a bit scratchy. Some instrucciones. So all my games from tape, from floppy. Yeah, sorry about that. A chance to show those old CDs needs to be done. Yeah, single write. So I have basically a backup of all my games, which, you know, the floppy disk, they're not the most reliable. The tape drive is very slow and also not super reliable. So this gave me a reliable backup of my games, including the high scores and stuff. And of course I put the CD on my NAS somewhere so I can always get my old games. That's really fun that to have that CD and still work. Actually, Erwin, this is a very cheap Logitech Rubber Dome keyboard. Just organizing things a tiny little bit. But that's really fun. If you download a game like this from some abandonware site, it tends to come with no records or just really bad times. But now we are still 1.5 seconds slower than my 1997 lap. It was just a really early midlife crisis Jake playing this in '97. Although having said that, for the longest time we didn't have a color screen. We only had like a Hercules, like I mentioned earlier, 4.7 megahertz system that would barely run this game. And until the mid-90s we had a 386 with a color but horrific, like blurry color display. So I was probably playing this until 94, 3-ish, and then we got a 386 and I could play Geoff Crammond's Grand Prix, which I did a lot as well. But there is just some value in this for simplicity. And the handling isn't stupid. It's not like I mentioned Test Drive 3 or the other Test Drive, Grand Prix Unlimited. When Accolade went to 3D they really messed up. The playability of this and Test Drive 2 is just about fun and somewhat doable, but very quirky. And when you're listening to this stream, you have the luxury of turning down the volume, and I've been sensible enough to lower the game volume quite a bit. But back in the day the PC speaker was as loud as it was and you couldn't adjust the volume. So imagine your parents, our PC was in the living room, no volume control, and with a bit of bad luck your PC speaker would be quite loud and they would hear this for an hour or 2 hours. It's gives you new respect. Well, 30 years later, respect for the parents. So easy to be so sluggish with these controls. They are really sluggish, but then that also means you have to start in a left-right chicane. You have to steer right before you know it. Otherwise you miss the second. Ooh, close. I played a little bit of the Cycles, Michiel. It had Assen in it, with weird... The feature they added, Accolade, in 98 with Test Drive 2, they found a way to get like elevation changes in this engine. So they put it at Assen, which doesn't have any elevation changes, but hey, stylish choices. Oh, looking at chat again, that's bad. I've never played GTA 5, Blue August. Or 4, or 3, or 2, or 1. See you again, missing that right apex. It seems they do some online racing actually in GTA 5. I saw it recently with Jimmy's video judging crashes. Keystick clip, yeah, Barry, I saw that. I'm a big enjoyer of LGR. Hardware. I don't think it would help me much. It would probably be worse, but that's the fun of old hardware sometimes. You scrub a lot of speed. This is not iRacing grass that has no grip. This will scrub your speed off. So I'm steering right a lot sooner than you think you should. So the first years I had this game, my parents were tortured with the PC speaker sound. I don't remember how loud it was. There was a huge variety in your specific PC, how big and how loud the speaker was. So my parents had to put up with that. And imagine this at half the frame rate. So this is probably 8 frames per second or something. Imagine half. And then we had a green phosphorus display, which is basically, if you look at Homer Simpson, when he messes with the radioactive glow in the dark green stuff, that's pretty good representation of a phosphorus green monochrome display, which had an afterglow of like a second or two. So half the frame rate monochrome, that's what it was for me. I'm still sort of trying to see if there is a way to get the Hercules graphics mode working properly with afterglow, with some sort of plugin or something, or a shader would be nice, and then run it at half the frame rate by just lowering the cycles. And I don't mean the Accolade cycles gain, but the cycles in DOSBox, the speed, for the real 1989 Niels Heusinkveld experience. It's pretty bad. 16 colors was unheard of for me in 89. As always though, I've underestimated the ability to talk and drive and look at chat, and the best time we did so far is still a 4-0, still 1.5 seconds off. Ooh. See, you can get a sort of a sudden pull into the turn. You can also spin. And you can scrub off too much speed. So there are a few conditions that upset the car. You cannot just go flat out everywhere. Let's see if we can trigger something. So at a certain speed you will spin. You just keep steering. Track. Yes. But then earlier, I don't know if it was a matter of the speed I did, you saw it suddenly pull into the turn. And oh yeah, I'm steering right way before the corner is there. And I'm slowly getting some respect for my old self doing a 102.6 back in the day. That's terrible, way too fast in. And I know it's probably just nostalgia, but I do think the way the car sort of runs wide, if you enter too fast, too early with your line, you run out wide, or you start to scrub a lot of speed in order to not go wide on the exit. It's as terrible maybe as it looks, sounds, and probably plays. The hours I played here, and it was a sim really, in my eyes. No apex. So how do you like the first look at Miami? This is official Miami simulator. Peak torque is at 8000, so I think downshifting wouldn't help. Near blow up. Oh, not near blow up, this was an actual blow up. Yeah, the fake harbor. I read that and then I thought, really? That's the stupidest thing. Anyway, that's evidence of being fast, as I was almost. Keeping it in 4th gear, not wanting to use 5th, but we have smoky mirrors. And we did not enter the leaderboard. Let's do a few more. Let's try the McLaren, which everybody used to think was the quickest car here. So Banana from Mars, the times back then, well, I showed earlier my CD burned in 1997 with a backup of all my games, including the high scores and stuff, so I have them of course backed up now somewhere, so oh, this thing has no grip. So we're in the McLaren now. We did a 4-0 I think earlier in the Ferrari, and it will be quite shocking. And I don't think this was intentional. Of course, this is sort of the 88 season and McLaren just dominated. I was naturally talented, yes. Chat person of the day. If you say things like that, you are instantly the best person in chat. Or wait, that's past tense, right? Were. Not anymore then. Alright. I take that back about being the best person in chat. You're not. So I think they probably meant to make the McLaren the quicker car in the game, and most people, casual players, I think only ran this car, but it just doesn't have the grip. It does more revs, it has 6 gears. But it's, if possible, even more sluggish, although I don't think there is a difference there. The steering seems at least as sluggish, and the grip is lower. As we almost understeer into the tunnel. Obviously this is not a great lap, but look, we are... It was pretty easy to do like a 6 or a 5 in the Ferrari, and now this is a 9. Let's see if we can go a little quicker. So you hear a bit more tire screeching. It's not like I have a lot of grip left. This being the late 80s, perhaps Enzo Ferrari found out about this game and he sent some very convincing people over to the Accolade headquarters saying, you know, the grip of the Ferrari has to be higher, or else. And suddenly the Ferrari is the quickest car. Only on Monza. Probably Hockenheim, you will be quicker I will be quicker in the in the McLaren. Because it does 216 miles an hour, whereas the Ferrari does 203 and a half. So we're definitely not going to get the time in this car. And the Williams, which is also an option, is like the McLaren but slower. So that's a very useless car to pick. This was sort of nice as well. You get like a torque curve and stuff like that. So yeah. Lost Boys, what do you think about the first two Project Cars games? I've never played the Project Cars games ever. So I don't know. Yeah, Enzo is a good point. If Enzo Ferrari turned up with some convincing large Italians, you would have probably expected him to demand higher top speed. Michiel, you have to find that replay. I don't have it anymore because that's sort of that will up my status a lot if we have a replay of my accidental overtake at the GPL LAN where I left 5 skid marks definitely, and then somebody else had to go into the hyperstimulator cockpit. Oh, the grip. The Enzo Ferrari definitely didn't send any mob people to Accolade to make this car the quickest grip. You can probably count the frame rate, Jake. I sometimes record a little bit at 60 FPS and then just go frame by frame. And how many frames it takes before you actually see a new image. I guess it's 8. Oh, chat. Yeah, maybe it's higher than 8, but it's also weird. 2D frame rates are strange. Let me actually emulate CPU speed. See what happens. Okay, now, oh no, this is hard. This might not be entirely fair. Oh, no. Ooh. Technically, this is the system we had, but running the game in 16 colors would be more demanding than running it. I love DOSBox, how you can just change that sort of stuff. So how about this? I think this is basically how it ran for me. With our 4.7 megahertz. Ouch, yeah, it blows up a bit. Yeah. I find that interesting with DOS gaming, that people remember the games to run smoothly, whereas a lot of the time they didn't. Let me get back to something fast enough. No, that strat doesn't work, Red One. It works in some games that run too slow, but this actually runs in real time, which is good. A 1.5 minute lap is always 1.5 minutes. It just shows you a tenth of the frames, so it's 10 times harder. I only recently found out that since we had a Hercules display, a monochrome display, that it sometimes had to emulate the CGA graphics, slowing it down even more. So the frame rates I must have had back in the days must have been, well, horrific. And this would have been a dream. Can you imagine? Despite reading NFT in chat, I still managed to make the chicanes. That's a feat. No foaming at the mouth yet. I don't understand NFTs, man. Crypto, NFT. Even if there is a legit aspect of cryptos and NFTs, they're not the same, I know. But even if there is also, in my sort of view, 90% shady pyramid scheme, scammy stuff that surrounds the little bit of possible actual usefulness that it might have. I'm probably too old, I don't... To me it sounds like sort of gambling and weird. And how NFTs and games are... Wow, no. Arr. Deliberately showing you the deformation physics, the crash damage on iRacing level, and in order to show that I had to run into something, so I chose this carefully placed tunnel to crash into. I want to make this leaderboard, but I think it's not going to be easy. Yeah, Robert, at this FPS you won't miss anything with a quick glance, but you underestimate that I'm now 42 years old, and a quick glance is sort of, oh, where's the chat? And then, where's the screen? And, oh boy, you've crashed. I don't know how some people do that. Stay on the track while sort of reading chat and thinking of witty things to say. Pretty hard. Look at that, no speed lost, but we blew the engine earlier. It's all relative, isn't it, Jake? There are always games that look worse than this. Even that technique of leaning with it doesn't seem to work anymore. I'm sure it did back in the day. That's true, the monitors were a lot smaller. The screen that came with our old PC, the monochrome one, was I think 9 or 11 inch. I think it could have been 9. And just naturally a bit more blurry. But it never looked good. Okay, new strat. I'll do a lap or two and then I'll pause the game and read chat, because doing those things at the same time is not working for me. Careful of the red line. Terrible. Oh! Do you see what happened? One lap of mediocre concentration and we're only a second off. This is a win already. Okay. Despite somebody talking about motion rigs in the chat, I still did it. See, focus is what we need here. Wow. It still didn't seem all that quick, but hey. Spectators without shirts on, people are trying to distract me now. We are on a very important mission and I do not see the level of dedication required in some people. This, I think, puts us, at least I want to see that, and so we can screenshot this and see, we're there. It's not bad, just, well, 9/10 to beat 25-year-ago Niels. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. I still want to give it a few more laps. So that force feedback is getting to my fingers now. Within a second. I actually didn't expect that to happen. And now, of course, overconfidence sets in. And we will not be close to that time ever again. Because I did this final chicane almost flat out a few times, but not at all in the 3.4 that I just did, so it's definitely a few tenths in there. Scrub. Do not scrub. Struggle just to point the car where I want it to. And it is genuinely a bit scary running it so high in the red line, knowing it can pop. Shame about that apex. And about this one too. That one, damn. I think this is one of those cases where I see the potential, but will we get the potential? Potentially, we might. With how many missed apexes that was, still a 3.9. But we can always fire up Motec and look at the data, of course. Horrific. Perhaps it's the presence of Jose Lopez in chat, AMS Hot Lapper, putting some pressure on me, trying to get good. Hard stuff, man, damn. Actually, I don't know Jose that well. I'm sure he plays other sims and he does racing too, but he's just particularly annoying on the Automobilista, the leaderboards. That's why I'm being unkind to him. He's a very kind person. Okay, let's have a brief moment. I have expectations. Now, I think we can beat the 3.4, 2.6. I'm not sure. Let's see what happened. So, of course, extremely popular stream this, so it's hard to keep up with this chat. You get that with 800,000 subs. I know it's so if I don't get to you, whatever you're saying, it's just my immense popularity here. Is it laser scanned? That's obvious, don't you think? It's the buildings in the background too are laser scanned. That's how you can distinguish the tracks. The backgrounds are... I don't know if each track has its own background. It might be. Although... Do you see the map? Is that the Eiffel Tower there? The 4 pixels, and this is the White House. And this is a red building. You get creative and looking at 6 pixels, but I'm not sure we're actually in Detroit, unless somebody built an Eiffel Tower in Detroit. I'm about to run off the track. So that green bar that fills up, it doesn't reduce your grip, it's just a level of damage you can take. So We saw the Eiffel Tower. Then what is... Does this represent anything? The White House, but then painted red. And this stuff... If anybody sees some iconic buildings, I mean pixels in the background, let me know, right? There might be something here. Oh! Good speed into the tunnel there. And we scrub. Oh man. I'm not joking when I'm saying this is genuinely, you get that sort of feeling like the heart goes a little quicker. It's no different than when I think I'm on a hot lap in AMS sweating with direct drive and load cell pedals. I know it's probably something I need to get checked out because it's not a normal reaction to a 34-year-old game. But that feeling when you're almost gonna blow up that engine and you've nailed a couple of apexes but you still have the random controls and a few corners left. The enjoyment I'm having currently is really quite high. So now we know that when we're doing a bad lap, I can take that last chicane flat out with no scrubbing. Alright, and when we're on a good lap, I'll screw it up. Felt fast. Bit of scrubbing. Nope. Oh, same time. Relatively quick. Too much scrubbing, I think, there. You know, let's get a bit philosophical here, which is my strong point. Perhaps if you're a young guy and you grew up with proper sims like R Factor was already out or Live for Speed, do you have the ability to replace the things that are not there in a simple game and create them in your brain? Because since I was 8 years old, I had to sort of add the missing bits. Of course, this doesn't have a lot of bits, but in my mind, when I play these old games, I'm still driving a racing car and it's still realistic, and it's all very good. Of course, it's fake, but it feels very real to me, that fun and excitement and engagement I have. Oh, micro scrub. Racing construction set, that was amazing in my mind. That was the game where you could actually build your own tracks on the Commodore 64, I think. And then you had elevation, you had track elements, and you could add elevation, you could choose between sand and ice, I think. Lots of different vehicles to use, and then it would take ages to build the track and load the game. And it wasn't all that playable in hindsight, but I was really jealous of my friend's Commodore 64 when he showed me that construction set game thingy. Here we take a bit of the pit exit for an optimal entry that we then screw up. Sometimes you get a bit of a chirp, it's sort of cool when you shift up or down. Improvement, 1/10, that's great. And that's not gonna be it. Whew. So we are definitely on the leaderboards now. 7/10 to go to equal the lap. Let me just catch up with chat a little bit. Lower the old heart rate. Nah, it's not that bad. Driver 69. That's I probably might not watch that. I should ask girl out on a date, but I'm in trance watching this. I know, this is better. Definitely better. And you will finish on a high with this, I'm sure. And somebody said stunts was mind-blowing in 1990. That's interesting. So I've mentioned how Accolade sort of screwed up when they went 3D with Grand Prix Unlimited and Test Drive 3. In my opinion, the speed of the game was very inconsistent and the handling was really weird. I did like stunts a lot. It was from Broderbund, and I think there were some people from the sort of Test Drive developers on it. And I did enjoy stunts quite a lot, but the quicker cars and the controls are really hard, more difficult and to be consistent than this old game, for example. I like the slower cars, like doing rally tracks on sand with the Lancia Delta or the Audi. It was really fun, but even stunts, which is a highly regarded game that I do enjoy playing, and it doesn't have the timing issues, it runs at a consistent 1 second takes 1 second basically. That's the level that game was at. And it's a legendary game. I do like it a lot, but in areas of playability with the quicker cars, it does not come close to this 2D game I'm playing now, in my opinion. Steve said, is the cover artwork the same as GP1? I think the thumbnail that is showing, I don't understand the YouTube app, how it works, so I probably didn't set a thumbnail for this. Yeah, and GP Lab said, I try to describe how much you can feel these older sims once you get really deep into them. It's of course imaginary. I like to think, maybe, with the good sims, that you actually feel something and it's not all in your head. But here it's definitely all in your head, but does it matter? Philosophical question again, as long as you're experiencing it. Yeah. Ah! Moises says, hey, why don't you drive the McLaren? It's the slower car. It's really the slowest car compared to the Ferrari. The Williams is probably worse, but the Ferrari is the quicker car in this game. Not many people, I don't think the casual people know that, but this is way quicker. Lower top speed, but it just takes the corners faster. Yeah, and Grand Prix 2, Patricia says, was his first sim. Then it was sort of becoming sim-like. It had telemetry, it had quite a bit of detail. And we had Red One doing some sort of detective work, that the Eiffel Tower that we are looking, see on the just in the middle of the screen now. Let me just point to it because you're looking at pixels. This Eiffel Tower is apparently the Monaco harbor in Miami that they've made. Excellent. And briefly getting back to stunts, which is definitely a game I played a huge amount. And last year I downloaded the Windows track editor for it, so I could make that like a 12-minute gravel stage. It had sort of a hand of God pushing you off track. If you went too fast, it would sort of spin you out and you would end up like way out of bounds. So there was no limit feel in stunts. You were under it or you were dead, basically. You were sliding off. And here you get the scrubbing and you don't spin out that easily. So playability wise, I would rate this above stunts. Let's do a couple laps, see if we can get even quicker. So we have 7/10 to go. Which surprised me when I saw my 2.6 and I did 5 point something. I figured we're never gonna get close. Here it's probably best to not be fully to the left, given the sluggishness of the change of direction here. I think it's quicker to sort of enter that chicane more from the middle. But abusing this pit exit there, yeah, this is horrific. I keep thinking how nice it would be if the original programmers are still around, to have like a chat with them, how they made the physics, for want of a better term. If they have some stories about the development of these old games. Imagine sitting down with Dave Kemmer. So how did you make Indy 500? Or of course Geoff Clement, Revs, how did you do that? And what's the source code like? And you share it, and sort of a deep dive into the physics of these old games. I think that would be really cool. Geoff Clement has been, I think, extremely quiet. And Dave Kemmer is of course probably working on tire model 94B. glanced at chat, that's why that Apex was non-existent. I played lots of GP1, Steve. Lots and lots and lots. The A and Z keys were worn out on my keyboard and my friends as well. It's a sign if you played GP1, you could see the point and comma and the A and the Z keys completely worn out on every keyboard. From the teenage sweaty hands. I still have to release my Automobilista version of Grand Prix 1, Geoff Crammond's first Grand Prix. I kinda got a bit... well, you know, when I do something for AMS, I know it is very niche, because AMS is no longer really played by many people. But I was hoping when I did beta testing for the GP1 mod for AMS that we would at least get like 5 people to give it a serious go, but nobody, well, 1.5 people gave it a go during beta testing, and it sort of made me sort of give up a little bit. But it's fine, I can release it anyway. It's genuinely fun to play, I found, with the steering help in AMS and the one-to-one physics. That I forgot his name, SDI, the guy reverse engineered Grand Prix 1 to an amazing degree, so we actually got the torque curve out of Grand Prix 1 and put it into Automobilista. The rolling resistance and the aerodynamics and stuff like that, it's all one-to-one, and it's so funny that despite being a 1991 game, a lot more advanced than what we are playing now, it could transfer to Automobilista, which let's consider that to be a realistic modern simulator, quite well. And the AI is fun as well, with this weird physics. They have the slipstream, so yeah, I should probably release the GP1 mod for AMS soon. Maybe a downshift isn't so bad. Let me just ooh, and we did another 3.9. That's fairly good. Let's see where chat's at. Yeah, Kremen doesn't seem to be involved with much gaming anymore. Yeah, Stunt Car Racer was a good game as well. Hey Remco, you should be on your canoe. You got internet on your canoe watching streams. That's not a holiday. Of course, if you're watching this stream and you sort of enjoy what I do, you probably belong to the few dozen people that still play AMS1 and enjoy it. So some bad laps are still a 3.9 now, so I keep thinking we might do a bit better than the 3.3 that's currently our best. The reason why AMS is still, in my opinion, somewhat relevant is the VR crew chief guys made the VR plugin, and as well for GTR2. That's just insane how they did that. I don't know, really no idea, but that's amazing. And VR, I'm using it again these days. I sort of did it a year ago when I got the VR headset. But then I sort of stopped a little bit. But I've got a better strap. Well, better. Slightly less bad strap. So I can use my headphones. I've got, I think, slightly thicker foam. So my nose is a bit less broken. And to my surprise, Pimax, I knew they had a 90Hz update. But I thought it would only work with the 30 series cards. But it works on my card too. So now I have 90 FPS, VR, AMS, and man, that's, yeah, that makes the graphics irrelevant, because what other sim can you get 90 FPS VR with 4x AA with double 4K screens with the Pimax? It looks really nice that way. I guess Live for Speed you can easily do that, but good luck getting that in. Well, maybe. Do you get it with RF2, maybe? Good luck with an Unreal Engine game getting that performance at that resolution with that AA. Maybe iRacing too, I don't know. Terrible. Oh, terrible, but look, another 10th. What am I doing better now? I don't know, it was a horrible lap. I don't understand why I'm getting quicker. More refs, I think that's it. Fewer apexes, more refs. Okay, that's the strat. Okay, I think we might be able to go even quicker, but I really cannot watch chat and do this, so I will have to continue the boomer old man approach of pausing the game every now and then to read a few things in chat. Ha! My summer car. I think My Summer Car is the game you... Oh, I forgot his name. He streamed it a lot. He's a fairly serious simmer. And he streamed it a lot. Oh, I forgot his name. A couple of years ago he streamed it. It's fun to watch streams, but I think I would get really frustrated playing My Summer Car. Amazing concept though, that basically one or two guys programmed that game, and it also showed that creative, fun game. Not with the best graphics, but I think worked so much better than you could expect. And the deliberate grind and pain was fun to see other people do. Is there a race department? AZ point comma t-shirt. Ooh, I need that. So DP Labs asks, what are you driving in AMS these days? So AMS is my playground, and the problem is, of course, I'm still friendly with Ryzen Studios, and I chat to the guys, and I must say they've been doing quite a few things with the physics now as well. And every now and then I get a question or two, or I see something in the chat, and I try to help. So it's not like I'm involved, but I'm not completely uninvolved. But they've got some smart guys there looking at the physics code for, and it's fairly recent, and they fixed a few things already with the diffs, and I found some other things, so it's very good to see what they are doing. But that means that we have sort of a agreement that if I want to tweak something in AMS, like a V10 card or some silliness, that's probably fine. But if I make something serious like a GT3 car or a 2022 F1 car, and I would release it for AMS, I mean, there would not be a big fight or anything, but then you get those arguments that, oh, it's AMS 1, is it better than AMS 2? It sort of gets in each other's way a little bit, and it's sort of a friend's agreement to not really release the serious stuff. I do try to help other modders a little bit more. There's a AMS Discord, where if there are questions, I try to post some information about how AMS works. So I'm just have a sandbox GP Lab. So a friend of mine, actually that's fun, mid-70s Formula Atlantic, a March 7.3 something. A friend drives that, and we did some laps in the sim comparing the speeds and stuff like that. I think I posted a video of that. So that's a nice project to do. I'd like to do more on Jimmy's cars, the Praga and his track day cars, but we lack data for some reason. Praga is really busy preparing the real cars, making sure they all work relatively well, and they haven't sent us any data yet, so that's a bit annoying. So it's just sort of whatever I get to, and it tends to be now F1 again, 2022-ish specs. There's not enough data available to really make a 2022 car. It's just something that might match the speeds a little bit. It's my sandbox that I sadly cannot share all the creations that I make for, but that's just how it is. My winter car is apparently coming. Well, Mark II, the car lineup in AMS2 is pretty solid, I think. But there might not be any super tourists. The thing is, of course, licenses are a thing with racing and racing games. And can you get the right license at the right conditions? I'm pretty sure there's some people at Ryza who would like the idea of super touring cars, but I don't know what they have planned, what they're doing. Okay, let's go back for just a few more laps. Oh, I was about to say, this engine is now run in, so we have extra speed. But judging by the smoke in the mirrors, it ain't no good. But look at that, guys. 1.3.2 P3 in the all-time high scores. And I think, can I get a bit like, just a few more laps. Just a few more laps. I don't really understand licenses and racing games. Why don't you simply allow game developers to put your cars in a game as long as it's a good game? Then you get some representation of your cars to a young audience that plays the game. I don't understand why billion-dollar companies ask thousands, or I don't know what the prices are, for a license. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And then you get stupid things like licenses running out. So if you buy GTR 2 now, if you can still get it somewhere, it won't have Ferrari cars in it, for example. What stupidity is that? I don't understand the world sometimes. Sometimes the upshift key doesn't register. Terrible. Nope. Trying a lower gear. Have we peaked? Have we done an iRacing tire and peaked? Oh, apparently the pole was 140. So, okay, we're basically... Yeah, thanks Jake for that. I needed that. Bit of uplifting here. I love those 1937 cars, Moises, but that game wasn't very good, I think. Didn't Jake do a review of it? I wonder if the downshift strat is actually potentially good. Another free. Shifting takes a bit of time, so I'm not sure if... Yeah, if you nail that... Ooh. Offline, off rhythm. Going backwards, you're seeing it here, people. Oh, apex missed. Shame. Would have been quicker. It's really tricky being at the limit there of revs. The backseating has started. It's really quite hard. However, 3.5, we are sort of climbing on this board. Niels 197 is feeling the breath, the stinky 42-year-old breath of Niels Heus 22 in his neck. I think I'm gonna leave it here. I don't wanna though. Just one itty bitty go. One itty bitty go. Can someone call Maranello to ask for the special Ferrari cheat code for this game? You're lucky I don't know any Italian swear words. I didn't mention it yet, but I think, and I thought about mentioning it, that whether your engine blows or not doesn't necessarily mean depend on your revs. It depends just being in the red for more than a certain time. So if you're 3 seconds in the red, whether that's 10.6 or 11.9, that doesn't really matter, I think. So yeah, you have to nurse that engine. But if you get it right though, that's sort of you can almost be near that red line with those two left-right chicane thingies, and you just have to balance that speed not to go too fast and blow the engine. It's a nice element. No, it's a frustrating element, but still, it's one. So the difficulty level makes it blow up a lot sooner. In fact, let me do a demonstration here. So this is the medium difficulty level where you have to do manual shifting. So look how long it takes. About 4 seconds-ish. And now we go hardcore. Boom, 1.5 seconds. So that's the reason maybe to... And here it's auto shifting, so you cannot blow up. The higher difficulty levels I think also affect the AI, but the AI is not great. And I think it also increases the rate of that green bar filling up if you go off track or bump into somebody. It's more sensitive damage. But you can do a championship and even save the championship. I just figured that out. The AI has a bit of reversed rubber banding. So once you've overtaken them, then you leave them behind in the dust. But sometimes when they are ahead of you, they seem to go fairly quickly. But AI with 2D games is a bit weird because they are in front of you or behind you. They're never beside you. It's weird. And you have to watch your damage, because you do bump into the AI because they are weird, and then every crash you make, every bump into the AI, if it's a big one, it's insta-death. But if it's a small bump, that bar fills up. And you have to let's do a pit stop. We haven't done a pit stop yet. Let's do a pit stop. So now I can change all. Look at the animation. Look at that animation and... can't turn the music on, sadly. Normally you would hear the music here. 9.8 seconds. Brilliant stop. Game? Yeah. Yeah, I think GP2 had a lot of sort of faults that could happen to your car, which is... I'm not sure what I think about stuff like that in a sim. Of course, 90s Formula 1 cars were very unreliable. And if all 26 would finish the race, that would be very weird. The rally sim... pretty sure I do not really like the Codemasters games that much. WRC looks to be maybe a bit more fluent, but if you want to torture yourself, I still think you probably want to play some Richard Burns Rally. played the Codemasters rally game, Dirt Rally, I think the first, at the Remco's place. I took a Stratos through some dark, rainy British forest, and I had no idea what I was doing. It looked great. I had no feel at all for what was going on. It felt very strange to me. And WRC sometimes looked a bit more fluid the way the cars moved, but it also looked like fast forward sometimes, where it's such a bit of a cheap trick for game developers. Easy for me to say, not being a game developer. Increasing the grip. But then again, I'm also not a rally expert. I don't really know what they should do. Okay, let's do a couple laps. Let's get that 2. You know, I've been watching a lot of Laurel and Hardy lately. I don't know why it was recommended to me, some like a new remastered, very nice looking. And this is one of those Laurel and Hardy moments where he's somehow fell out of the balcony into the bathtub. He's soaking wet, and he does that. I think we blew another engine. Oh, by the way, I can't stop. That isn't evidence that I'm enjoying this. It's there, 2 point something. Steve, I will now attempt to do a pro gamer streamer move by showing you that while I'm driving. Hang on. I'm still driving. Way back, I burned all my games on a CD. The rich friend in school had a CD writer which was state of the art in 1997. I made a backup of all my games, so I still have that. CD still reads, so it has the lap times, the high scores of me in 97. Don't blow up. See, now I'm a bit scared of the blow-ups. Oh, look at that jet. Yeah, we are here now, and we were there. That was the peak, and we've gone that. Can we? No, I don't think we can. Final attempt. This is definitely the final attempt. It's 11 o'clock. Would have been my bedtime, way past my bedtime in 1988. So just a few more laps. Even though we may not beat the time, we're on the leaderboards. P3 on the leaderboards. So it was somewhat of a success. And it's in there, it's definitely in there. It's the microtransactions in this game for a new engine every time that are killing me. But guys, this is easy to find. Grand Prix Circuit, abandonware websites, DOSBox. I use DOSBox X, which is easier to use in the sense that you can just drag the screen size to whatever you want. And maybe it's just me, but I do find this enjoyable, and hard to believe that, but I do. So yeah, you can easily try this game out for yourself and see if you can get that 2.6 that I'm not getting at the moment. I think a 1 is possible. I'm saying it, a 1 is possible. Anybody got Jarno Opmeer's number? Bit of understeer maybe, just a little. You see, this is not frustrating at all. It's wholesome fun for the whole family. Do be trying this. I think that is the strat, be like at 180 there, try to keep it there so you're not quite in the red. engine might last. You're still very quick, but being precise with your line in this game is so hard. And if you're not precise, you will scrub. There were no other sim options back in 1988, I don't think. For PC anyway. One year later, of course, if you had a quicker PC, Indy 500, but only one track, oval, but every other metric way superior. Yeah, refs didn't come out for the PC, I don't think. BBC Micro, maybe. Did it come out for PC? I actually don't know, I doubt it. Easy, flat out, no problem. There is a lot more in there. It's just so hard to extract with these controls and my skills. Ooh, 3.3. And I scrubbed way too much in the first chicane here. And now I missed the apex and I screwed. I'm gonna call it, guys. One more lap. No. Bad. Bad. Oh, and we spun it. Having said all this, let's scroll way up in the comments to find how much were we quicker than Ayrton Senna. I think like 36 seconds quicker than Ayrton Senna was. So even though we're not quite as quick as I was 25 years ago, being about half a minute quicker than Senna is not too bad. I think I can sleep tonight. And we will still be here in the charts. So yeah, 97 Niels is feeling the pressure now. Maybe one day this year we managed to do it. All right. Well, Does anybody have any questions before I go? Feel free to ask. I haven't streamed in a long time, so if it's anything on your mind, as long as it's not an H shifter, then do ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna call it pretty soon, and we'll have to make do, being 6/10 below my best time. I'm really random Steve with my classic gaming, so I do enjoy. I want to do Grand Prix 2 with a wheel and look at the telemetry and stuff that's included. I played a bit of Grand Prix 1 last year, so maybe this summer would be a good moment to try Grand Prix 2. Runs well in DOSBox, 640 by 480, and then have a go at that with the wheel and pedals. That should be cool. GTR2, I played it briefly and I sorta liked it, but barely played it. I do think any sort of driving school thing, I also enjoy that in Gran Turismo, is a good feature to have. How do you mean that, Max? People starting to get itch to move away from physics spreadsheets. Well, that will be the downfall of sim racing if they do, obviously. Yeah, GP2 is interesting. It has so many options. I don't know what you... I'm interested to try. Like, there are damper options, anti-roll bars, bump rubbers, I think, plank wear, that sort of stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and telemetry integrated in the game in 96 came out. Of course, now Motec, we take it for granted that there's a Motec plugin for your sim. But in 1996, that was like the bar was here and it was erased like off the screen. So I definitely... If I do another classic sim, it deserves to be Grand Prix 2. Guilty pleasure sim. I know the concept of the guilty pleasure, but maybe Gran Turismo 1 is sort of... I genuinely enjoyed it a lot with my gamepad. Yeah. Well, Max, for me, the spreadsheet is just a way to condense like the 1,000 parameters that go into the sim, make it a bit more visual for me. You might integrate tools into the sim for that. I don't think I would prefer it that way. I think tuning the sim when you're driving is one level lower than tuning it in a spreadsheet. And preferably even tuning more cars at the same time in a spreadsheet. Tweaking when you're driving is not something that I'm that interested in. I want to make the car and then drive it and then make changes to the car properly with telemetry and everything and then drive it again rather than tweaking. But whether that's tools you have in whatever software, if I like spreadsheets because I understand them a little bit and I do a bit of VBA, but whatever you do is fine. I did play the cycles a little bit, Marbach. It's sort of the same as this, but it feels a bit slower and it has undulations in places like Assen where there shouldn't be. So AMS1, since it is my sim, not my sim, Renato and all the other guys did a lot of work too, but it sort of feels like, oh yeah, I was involved in that, so it feels a bit like it's mine. I rarely drive the original content because I'm always tweaking with my spreadsheets and my code. So I've been doing a Porsche Cup car recently, Formula 1 2022-ish. And I think in certain ways it can still be equal or better than iRacing RF2 ACC. There are a few things I'm not sure about, but I'm also not sure if that's me, very possible, or is something in the physics engine. There's definitely things that are maybe they could have made a better decision back in the day, but then again, it's quite amazing that AMS1, which is based on rFactor, coded in early 2000s, still stands up. It's more about the parameters. I bet you can make iRacing feel better with different parameters. You can also make AMS feel worse with other parameters. It's still used for driver training simulation, AMS1 and even rFactor 1. And I think AMS1 has certain benefits with the physics and the force feedback and stuff over RF1. It's really not the same. If people say AMS1 is still a bit like an rFactor mod, it's definitely not true. Game Stocker kind of was, but AMS1 has a lot of stuff going, turbo models and stuff like that. So, and that's the thing, like Alain said, I'm very seriously thinking that too, when RF2 and iRacing, they're too complicated for their own good. The physics programmer went in a direction that he or she as a programmer felt, this is great. But then at the end of the day, you have to make content and you have to iterate the content based on feedback and stuff like that, which is a difficult thing either to do, implement feedback, or sometimes it seems difficult to listen to feedback. But then sometimes the feedback isn't consistent as well. So how do you do that? So, yeah. What do sims not have that you wish they did? No microtransactions. Just, I think they have most things, but the execution is just differences in the tire model, for example, where iRacing feels very different to RF2. There's not fundamental things missing, maybe. Like for a cool driving experience, it's all there, but the execution of the game is different. Yeah, exactly, Max. If RF2 can be amazing, but sometimes the cars just aren't right because there's too many parameters for not enough data, maybe. But that's something you have to match your physics engine and your content creation requirements, that they match and you get the optimum, rather than having a tire model with 4 parameters is too simplistic, but a tire model with 4,000 parameters is probably not doable. Somewhere there's an optimum, I think, there. No, sir, we need AMS1 is just what they use. We have some PC driving. This is a Williams, I think. Let's see what they do. They have the magic stick to the middle Scalextrics physics for the AI here in the demo. Yeah. No, AMS1 is just the same version that is used for the driver training sims, and you will also find rFactor being used and Assetto Corsa as well. You can make a useful driver training sim with all sorts of different games, but AMS1 is definitely one of them, and it has its place, I think, still in occasions. Angus, Motorsport Games, yeah. I'm just a skeptic, a born skeptic, I think. So when a big company takes over another company, I always have my doubts whether that's for the long-term good of anybody, except, you know, that's a bit of a dark look at it, and it's probably not always true, but it didn't feel right when they bought Studio 397, and looking at how the stock goes, and I don't know what if there's probably a bit too much rumors going around as well, but it doesn't look great, and it's a shame that the NASCAR game probably had to be finished yesterday with a new team and a new engine, and of course it's not that simple, and they release something horrific. Will the customers come back if you make a new game, or would it have been better to develop the game for 6 more months to make it actually decent and then release it? Would you have more goodwill and the people would actually buy your next game? I sometimes don't know, and I've worked a little bit with Studio 397 for the Amazon partnership with the Grand Tour game. And when you work with Amazon or EA or whatever, the decision making and the layers, it all gets so convoluted and weird, and it's often not down to the people making the sim. They're probably working hard and very passionate, but in a big corporate thing, things can go wrong in also many ways. Then please don't blame it on like the hardworking developers. Most of the time, most people have their heart in the right place and they work long hours, but it's hard to manage that. And yeah, with motorsport, I hope it all works out, but so with AMS1, like going back to that a little bit, I mentioned I basically only drive the cars that I mess with. So I don't really drive the stock cars a lot, and I don't mean the stock cars, but just the stock default content. There's probably some things that I would do differently now, I'm sure there are, but hey. This small little itty bitty steering wheel. It's a Moto Lita wheel that I currently have no adapter plates for. I should get some laser cut. I think I know somebody who can do that. To do some like historic touring cars and stuff. That's great. I'd love that. So Olaf, yeah, I talked about that briefly. If it's weird stuff, it's fine, but I do have a very good relationship with Risa still. And releasing GT3 cars or Porsche Cup or Formula 1 2022-ish things that we wouldn't, like I said, we wouldn't get in a big fight or anything, but I think it's fair that it's no longer a supported game, AMS1. The focus should be on AMS2, and there should not be no debates on, now there's something new for AMS1, and some people say it's better than AMS2, others say it's not. We want to sort of avoid that, so probably not a lot will be released. I am helping modders though on the AMS Discord, so perhaps that will improve the quality of the mods a little bit by them knowing a bit more how the physics work. Is Rise a part of Codemaster? You see, I didn't really follow what happened there, Angus. From what I know, and I think I can say that, is that Risa has a lot of freedom with the product that they're making. I don't know how it works exactly, or if there is something looming or anything. I have no idea. As far as I'm aware, they're pretty free to do what they want to their sim. It is a bit scary though, like the Codemasters, the EAs, and that's that. It seems like the more you rely on passion and skills, the bigger the company is, the harder it is to channel that into a good game, and the easier it is to somewhere get derailed and make weird decisions and end up with something that's not as good as it could have been. But then if you want to make a Unreal Engine 4 or 5 game that's AAA, you need millions and of money and a lot of people to do it as well. So yeah. Max, I think there's quite a few drivers posting their feedback, and even on iRacing. There are some issues with, and not just for Ryza or Studio 397, but iRacing and everything in general, is that in my experience, drivers are quite keen on the sim, but also always busy and sort of doing 5 things at the same time. And when you're really beta testing and you want like to do weekly races or have like a version analyzed by people, then a real driver is often too busy, too distracted to be consistently playing your versions and providing feedback. So you might get like a Nicky team doing a bit of a rant on iRacing, which is a form of feedback, or a bit more like the calm down feedback iRacing may have gotten from some other IndyCar drivers. I know some people, real drivers, are quite into the sims, but beta testing and feedback is more difficult. It requires a bit more like commitment, which is just hard to do if you're very busy. And also, it only makes sense if there's quite a few drivers giving you the feedback and testing it, because if you just rely on one driver, perhaps if you had 4 more opinions, they would say something a bit different. So it is really quite difficult to use feedback. And sometimes it seems like some developers seem to ignore the feedback as well, but that's easy to say. Perhaps they just struggle to implement it. It has sounded a bit like in the past that iRacing was too critical of criticism, and even RF2, some things there. It seems like when things don't get changed, that they don't listen to the feedback. Sometimes it feels like that, but I almost cannot imagine that the physics guys and the programmers truly don't listen. There are just difficulties working with your engine and with the time frame and other content having to be made. So I wouldn't really paint such a black picture, but it is difficult on many fronts to deal with driver feedback, I think. Microtransactions, yeah, I don't know. Well, I know, I don't like that. I don't necessarily mind something that is like a monthly subscription thing. I think iRacing pushes it a bit, being both subscription and content. Like, I'd make a decision, but yeah. BeamNG is physics. And it does quite a few things right. I tried it last year with a street car. It felt super natural. Well, normal, natural, like not supernatural. A bit like Live for Speed, it felt to me. Very natural, very nice to drive. It's getting pretty good. I don't know if it will get like proper sim quality if the model they have, the physics engine, works with super rigid carbon tubs and stuff, but it's definitely a physics sim. Grosjean is weird. Oh, we have sexbots. Oh yeah, we've made it. Sexbots entered the chat. I can die now. Let me just shows you how desperate the sexbots are to join a stream with 27 viewers. Oh well. So Grosjean, I find it interesting how he wasn't very liked that much in F1, and I think for reasonably good reasons, like he did some stupid stuff. And then he had a big crash. Thankfully he survived, and then since then everybody loves him. But I do like Grosjean's attitude for sim racing. I remember in iRacing there was this hack, tire warming or something, and he came on the voice chat, guys, let's just treat it like a sim and not be exploiting this. I think nobody listened, but he has his sim heart in the right place, so that was good. Yeah, the hill climb stuff as well in BeamNG is fun. Well, it's also a quarter to midnight. So if there are no more last minute questions, I will be ending the stream. And Ibra is sort of trying to get banned, just like the sex bots, by asking about the H shifter. No, there's no H shifter. You're probably not teasing, but there was one briefly, but the design isn't quite good enough. It surprisingly still kind of works, but it's not release worthy. Lots of issues with it, and there's no new design in the works at all. So no, sadly. No, probably not red one. I talked about that briefly before. We don't want to, AMS2 is the sim currently available. I don't want to be releasing stuff for AMS1 that sort of competes content-wise with AMS2. But I also mentioned AMS2 is now, they're doing a lot more physics work. Some really smart guys looking into things, and I'm lending a hand sometimes. So I bet AMS2, I knew that from the start. Some people were a bit disappointed. There's one thing you can be sure of, and I'm not saying that because I worked with them, but they managed to put 26 hours in a 24-hour day. They really try their best, and I think that goes for most sim devs. If a sim ends up being bad, it's often not because of bad intent. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching and having us be half a minute quicker than Senna. 6/10 slower than Niels, but still not too bad. All right, who knows? I might do some Grand Prix 2 this summer. Who knows? Bye bye, guys. Stop screaming. Oh no, streaming. That's the button.